Hey everyone, it's Jaime Alejandro here. I just wanted to share a few things before we get on with the episode. But if you may have noticed in the episode description, you'll see that this is the 100th episode of Arts Calling. It's crazy, it's wild, and I'm overwhelmed with joy and excitedness and love and all kinds of things. But I just wanted to share a few thoughts, get them off my chest real quick, and we'll keep this thing rolling. So, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to my brilliant guests who have taken the time to share their insights, to teach us how to be incredible artistic role models, and to serve as best we can through our art, through our expression. You guys are amazing, and you have made me a better artist, not only a better artist, but a better human being. I feel it in the way that I live my life now, in the way that I'm a better husband and a better parent. I just feel like I'm indebted to the contributions that you have made in these conversations with me. I'm really grateful for your time. And of course, thank you to the listeners for making Arts Calling a part of your podcast rotation. You mean the world to me, and I hope that we're giving you valuable insight in the way folks in various different forms and mediums create their work, how they balance their life. I'm just very grateful that you've allowed us a place in your listening habits. I'm incredibly grateful to you. And of course, I want to thank my family, my mom and dad, my sisters, my friends, and most importantly, my wife and son, who are really the greatest collaborators in my life that I could have ever asked for. And I guess I just wanted to say one more thing, which is how funny it is that even though we resist the thing that make us happiest, some of us anyway, we end up coming back around to that which fulfills us the most, which is creative expression. And when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was write and record in some shape, way, or form. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to sing from rooftops and from mountains like Ricardo Montaner for some of us old Latinx kids who know who this guy is. I wanted to do that. And of course, I wanted to get in front of a microphone and interview people and get to know them and get to learn where they come from and why they do the things they do and how they do it. And I recall, being a kid, taking my dad's tape recorder and going around and interviewing my cousins, and we would make up stories and we would play. As a kid, that's really just how I saw the world and how I understood things, by hitting that record button and going on an adventure with somebody. And I just think it's so silly that decades later, here I am doing the exact same thing. And I am beyond grateful that I have this opportunity to be here with you, talking with you, and just know that I do not take this for granted. And I hope to continue to serve our creative community online as best I can. And stay tuned, because the next 100 episodes are going to be just as amazing, if not better. And I'm going to keep doing my due diligence so that I can become a better interviewer, so I can continue to serve in a more strategic way to try to get better at what I do, and we will go from there. But rest assured, this is a good time for Arts Calling, and I couldn't have made it happen without you. No matter where you are, thanks for all you do, and keep at it, because we got work to do. So I'll leave it there. Thanks again for everything, and enjoy the episode. Hello, anybody there?
No, we're not here.
That's super creepy.
Oh,
that's
my.
What
Wow, you brought it big time, Alvaro.
Yeah, man, this is how we do it, man. I mean, if you're a real deal Astros fan, you gotta.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta.
I should have been prepared. I should have brought my mask too. Mabelle, thank you so much for joining us too. It's great to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you too. Thanks for inviting me into this conversation. I feel very okay, thank you. Because I was like, I don't have a mask.
Oh, that's amazing.
I just want to come in and show it off.
That's right. Any opportunity. So I want to thank you folks so much for doing this. I know that we had another kind of change of plans just a moment ago, but I really want to thank you first of all because this is episode 100 of this podcast.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
So I'm really happy that, well, first of all, Alvaro, you got to be here because you were my fourth guest. You were my fourth guest on this podcast. So that was pretty wild. And Mabelle, I just think this is going to be a wonderful time. I love your work. I've just started reading some stuff this week and love the podcast as well. So we're going to keep it nice and loose today because I think that when the plan goes out the window, it's nice to have a little bit of a fun, laid back conversation. So first and foremost, I'm gonna finish talking, but how are you both and where are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm in Chicago. Hi, I'm Alvaro.
Hi, Jaime. I am in San Diego. I'm actually 15 minutes away from the international border. So I'm like south
You're
San
right
Diego.
there. Yeah.
You
Repping
can see Mexico from your house.
You can you literally can. If you get on my roof at night, you can see the Tijuana lights. Very proud of that. I was born in Tijuana, so I'm happy that all I have to do is climb the roof to see the motherland.
So home's right there, at least every look out the window. That's amazing. So first and foremost, guys, let me ask you, you have started working on a play together, and I just caught wind of this morning. And I was amazed that I was just kind of snooping around Alvaro's website and I found the script and I read it voraciously. I was so excited because I figured that might be a really, really good place to start in terms of how you folks know each other and how that little project came to be. And then maybe we can move on from that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's how I think, how do we get to know each other, Mabelle? I think that's how we start out first.
I know
right?
our origin story because it started, I was taking a playwriting class with Idris Goodwin. I think it was a Playwright Center offering, and it was during the beginning of the pandemic. So like the Zoom class model was just taking off, and Alvaro was a guest speaker in that class. You remember that, Alvaro?
I do.
Okay. So my colleague Tori, who's the co-host of the podcast, like I sent her a message. I'm like, we have to get him on the podcast. And so because we have a podcast about playwriting in life called Hey Playwright. Shameless plug. But so that's where Alvaro first appeared on my radar because I had read Luchadora. That's why, like, I had read Luchadora, and then he came on. And I was like, dude, we need to get this guy. He seems really cool. And then we sent him a message and like crickets, no response. No.
I'm just too busy.
Too busy, right? But on his website, I don't know if you still have this, I don't know, but on your website, it says like, we'll respond within 24 hours. And I was like, dude, this dude is totally blowing us off. And so then I think time passed and I was like, Tori, I'm going to just like send another email. Like, what the heck, And I sent another one. And I was like, I don't know if you're blowing us off or if like this went to your spam, And he writes back. He's like, I responded right away. Sure enough, it was the only message in our spam. And it was a really nice message from him saying, yeah, I'll be on the podcast. So that's really where it began. We had him on the podcast. It was our longest episode. At that point, it was the longest episode. I think like others have since been longer, but that was like epic. It was, and we had to edit so much. There was a lot of it that didn't make because we just kept talking and talking. It was such a great conversation. It
was a great episode, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, devoured it.
I want to release a part 2 of that because there was stuff that we didn't get to because it was going on.
That's right.
I mean, I think it should go on forever, but
You got to do a series. I think if you serialize the podcast now, we might do a little bit better, especially with the Alvaro top billing there. You have the video with the mask.
God.
It's going to be amazing.
No,
it's going to be great.
Sure, for
I
sure.
mean, I'm not gonna lie. I could talk and tell stories forever, but like, I mean, I want to make space for like, you know, awesome people like you all. Like, I mean, but I mean, I want to continue the story in terms of that's how we
Yes.
first met, and then I became aware of you know, Mabelle as a playwright in terms of I read her play, Loteria Game On. I think I had actually read it after it was selected for the what was the name of the yeah, the
Reimagine?
Reimagine
Mm.
TYA thing. And so I was like, okay, like I want to, I had never heard in terms of, I was like, yeah, I want to see what her work is. And so when I read it, I like I not that I don't get this with, you know, I mean, there's certain plays that when I read, I'm like, I get a little jealous because I'm like, man, I really would have wished I would have written that one. That's exactly how I felt with Loteria. And I told her from the beginning, like, like I read it and I was like, man, I really wish I would have written it. Because I just love in terms of how, yeah, in terms of the voice, in terms of how, I mean, and maybe it's just, you know, part of it is that, you know, Mabelle is also a mom of teenagers.
Mm.
And like she caught she didn't just catch the voice of, you know, the parent, but also the teenagers. And it was really, I really love that because it's, I mean, writing for teens is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I continue to struggle with it and I try to do it because it is hard for me. And I feel like if it's a challenge, that's what I want to continue to take on. And so I was really like, wow, like Mabelle has just got it.
Just nailed it. Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, these were, you know, this was surrounded by a Latino family. And so it was just like, yeah. So it was like, I'm yeah, I want to continue to, you know, get to know her. So we continue to talk. And so when this opportunity, I was contacted by the University of Central Florida, and they were doing a collaboration with Orlando Rep in terms of looking for short plays that focus on like mental health, specifically targeting teens. And and I mean, already, like, I mean, just that right there, I was like, I mean, I'd rather do this as a partnership. And I felt like this would be a great step to be able to work with Mabelle. Like, I mean, I and get paid for it too.
Of course.
But it was really just this step that I was like, let's try it. Yeah, let's see. And so I asked her, and Mabelle, well, let me see if I can fit you my schedule and everything. And so thankfully, it worked out. And yeah, it was, I mean, I have to say, it never felt like it felt like we had known each other for a while already. Like there was no like road bumps in terms of figuring out. Cause um, yeah, in terms of, I mean, we kind of talked ideas and she pitched a few ideas. And that one, the one that we wrote about was for the play. Like that was the one that was just like, it felt like we both were really kind of gripped to that. And so,
yeah.
Yeah, so she kind of gave this a bit of a synopsis, and then I wrote some of it, and then I sent it back to her, and then she wrote like, yeah, like the middle, and I just kind of you know, added on an end, and then it was, yeah,
Just
I mean,
like that, effortless.
it felt like it, yeah, like it really felt effortless. I would say like, and we would talk over, you know, when we would get notes or even just talking over, like we knew exactly what we wanted to continue to focus on and change. Like nothing, any note they gave us never surprised us in terms of where we knew what needed to be, because we felt we knew the story.
Yeah.
And part of it was just us talking about various things. And one of the things that we were talking about was the what was that book? The Spare Parts. About these high school kids who had built this kind of like robot engine. You explain it better, Mabelle.
It's an underwater robot, but like there were kids out in, it was in Arizona, right? I don't know. Yeah, because they weren't around the water sources. It was a whole thing, but it was just this group of kids, unlikely kids in this underwater robot.
Mexican kids.
Someone documented, and they ended up beating MIT, right?
Wow.
Like
it's really, and so when I read that, we were talking about that, and she knew a lot more about it than I was like, I got to read about this. So I started reading the book, and that kind of was also the what kind of helped fuel that inspiration. I think on my end, because I wanted to be like I wanted to be able to contribute in terms
Yeah.
of writing this, and yeah, that just felt like such a beautiful story to to kind of take inspiration from, but then also to kind of just highlight these two teen Latinas in terms of sisters,
Mhm.
and really kind of yeah. So it was and then we kind of settled on the title, like a jet fueled mariposa, which is from a line from the actual play. We felt like
Right,
that was
right.
the best way that represented what we were trying to create.
That's amazing. Now, Mabel, had you been familiar with collaboration before you started working on something like this, or how did you approach collaboration before you got into this one with Alvaro?
Yes, so I have collaborated in different ways, but not in writing a play with any other human outside of my family. Like I work with my kids. And so I didn't know, and like it's not like Alvaro and I can just like go to a coffee shop and hang out and like we've never met in person.
Mhm.
So like I was just like, I don't know, but I'm a yes person. I'm like, my motto in life is let's just see how this plays out. And so like, and we had been talking for a while, and I feel like you just get energy from people. It's like, this is a good dude. Like he's he's one of the few people one of the few guests that has like asked us, because that's what happened. I don't know. You didn't mention this, but I think this speaks volumes of the kind of person that you are. Um, you asked to see our work. You were like, "Hey, I
Mhm.
want to know, like, so I'd love to read something." Which, as a playwright, to me, that is one of the greatest honors, that someone is asking, as to read my work, as opposed to me saying, "Would you want to read my play?" It's just really, but that's really generous of him. It's not like he has all the time in the world, so that he took the time to do that. Like that's the kind of generous, like the spirit of a mentor, of an educator. That's what Alvaro is. So I was down for it. Didn't know what it
Mhm.
was going to look like, but I felt that it was a very organic collaboration, and like you said, it was. I think we gelled pretty quickly, pretty easily.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed about the two of you in particular, listening to the podcast episodes and some of the conversations that I've had with Alvaro before, is this idea of just committing to something and not going into it blindly, but just accepting the challenge in a way. Do you think that that's kind of like a something that unified you in your quest to collaborate together? Because I think that's kind of how both of you respond to some of the creative work, right? You don't really back down, either of you. It doesn't strike me that you back down from the challenge.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, I feel like that's I mean, especially as I definitely, I mean, as I get older as a playwright, like I mean, I do see that there's some things that I'm really comfortable with, but I mean, I continue to want to grow.
Hmm.
And but I also realize like I um I don't know, I think the model of theater needs to continue to change. Like we're starting to see I mean we see it in film and TV. And not saying theater isn't doing it also, but I think it needs to be more common where we do have these collaborations, and there's
Hmm.
nothing like I think that we can only become better playwrights and tell better stories that way sometimes. And why should I don't know, like I mean I started, I mean, I've been a collaborator since I started a performance troupe with my wife. And we created. We would all create work, and I was mostly the writer, but he'd bring stuff to the room, and give me feedback, and then come back and shape it. And I continue to love that, but I've never thought about in terms of like actually like having another like writer as a collaborator. But I'm like, why not?
Hmm.
And thankfully, Mabelle was open for that, because I mean and I always want to make sure that I mean, I understand. I mean, obviously, I've been very fortunate to continue to have work and continue to get work, but my goal is also like now, honestly, like I feel like in the last couple of years, it has been the shift. Like I do want to find more collaborations, and I want to work with other people. And I mean, I don't. I mean, there are certain stories that I'm just going to write. I'm not
Yeah.
saying people wouldn't want to write them with me, but I'm going to write them anyway.
Yeah.
But there are certain stories that I would love to kind of tackle, and the fact that I mean, like I said, I mean, Mario is such a creative person, and I really like. I think we both bring different things, and I think that's what makes the story better.
Yeah, definitely does.
And yeah, we collaborate well. I mean, so far, so.
So, Mabelle, what do you think?
So wait, so Alvaro, was this the first time that you collaborated with someone on a script, other than the one that you did for I Have a Story with your kid?
I think so. Yeah. Well, in terms of yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like other than the one that I wrote with my son with I Have a Story. No. Yeah, no. Here we go. No, like I've had, like I said, I mean, in terms of collaboration with the Royal Mexican Players, even in the last, I would say late. Gosh, I'm blank. Somewhere around 2010 or something. Like my wife and I, we wrote a play together. Um, but yeah, it's been quite a while, you know, and so yeah, so I definitely, like I said, that's kind of where it stemmed is some of that knowing how to do that. But I don't think like officially, like I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think my wife would like identify herself as a playwright. Um, and even though she's written some great stuff, and so I felt like yeah. So I mean, so definitely, I feel like this is also I think a little bit different in terms of like working with somebody who's like committed to being a playwright.
Yeah.
And yeah, seeing what stories we can tell that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me just kind of pivot for a moment, because I wanted to ask you some things about, as working playwrights, how do you see the current state of the type of theater that you're creating? And in this particular case for you folks, it's family/TYA. Is that correct? Is that a good assessment?
I would say, I mean, I feel like it's I mean, I've started to use the term multi-generational,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I think that's a little more accurate in terms of definitely more of what has. It seems like because most theaters don't kind of go under that label, I think the type of work that we do tend to seems to be it's more receptive at theater for young audience, theaters that really specifically do that. But I mean, for what I write, and I know, especially in terms of reading what Mabelle writes, like I mean, it's multi generational,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, like I mean, I would love your thoughts on this, Mabelle, but I really feel like this is like if theater wants to thrive, this is what it needs to continue to do is find those where you're not just catering to, I mean, it works sometimes when you're just catering to one specific audience, but why not cater to them all? I mean, especially in terms of I mean, we love to enjoy various things as families, in terms of films and outings, why not
Mm-hmm.
theater?
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm so career wise, I'm kind of in a different I have a different path than Alvaro. Alvaro is a rock star playwright. Yes, he is. He's wonderful that way. But I consider myself a playwright so that I can be a better teaching artist. Because for
Mm-hmm.
me, theater has always been an issue. Has always had the professional theater has always had an access issue. And so, who is theater for? Who is theater written for? Who gets to see theater? So, because I see those limitations, and I also see the benefits of theater, what theater can do for a person, both the theater maker and the theater audience. I'm all about building my own table and like making the work for people who can enjoy it. So not at the macro level, but at the micro level, like working in communities. I mean, I'm a teaching artist. I teach in prison. I run a Latinx emerging playwrights workshop. We have a show tonight. We're actually doing our play tonight. I don't know.
Nice.
But it's about getting back to our roots as storytellers. That's for everybody. It's not for the donors who support these larger theaters, regional theater. I mean, I love a good Broadway show. I love a beautifully produced play. I love the aesthetic. Going to see a play is one of my favorite things to do. But I also, one of my favorite things to do is seeing when someone's eyes light up, when they recognize their potential, the possibilities of being able to write their own play. It's like they've just learned to fly. And that to me that's my narcotic. I am addicted to that when they just like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I fortunately get to work with a lot of first time playwrights like over and over again every year. So
yeah. And that's incredible to hear because we need more people like that. And I think you complement each other really well in this regard because we need the representation, whether it's within the system that we already have of colleges and institutions and, people on the outside of that going out into the community and doing that kind of work, which is something that you both are very committed into. But this is crazy because I feel like to that point, I was thinking of the first time that I met a brown playwright, and I'm from Wyoming, so I don't, there's only like me and a couple of other Mexicans over here. There's not that many of us, but I was 24. I was a junior in college, and Jose Cruz Gonzalez came up from Denver to talk to us.
Wow.
And I'm going to have him on the podcast too, because I know that you
Awesome.
guys, you're close with him. He changed my life because he made it feel like that would be possible. Because before it was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make any inroads in this field, in this professional. I don't even know if this is possible, but, having those people there in those spaces is so important. And to that point, I wanted to ask you if there are some things that we can impart to younger folks who don't feel like they have a place. What have you seen that works for them? Especially those folks who don't feel like they have a place in theater in particular.
Oof. I can only speak on what has worked for me and the community. I created a community. That's what it is. And fortunately, I have a theater that backs my community. Like I told them I want to do this thing, and they're like, sure, okay, we'll throw some money at you, but yeah, and so that's the thing. I think it takes, but I have to say, I am so into Jose Cruz Gonzalez. Like there is no greater role model, I think, in theater.
Yeah.
Like especially for brown people, I just think Jose Cruz Gonzalez is such a transformational human being. I mean, and one of the kindest people you will ever meet, I think. Yeah. But I'm inspired by him. I mean, he ran with the Hispanic Playwrights Project for 19 years. So just seeing that, like, there's not tons of, like, to lead something like that requires a lot of energy on a facilitator's part, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's people having wanting to commit to something like this, knowing that many times it's going to be thankless and you're going to be doing a lot of extra work that may go unrecognized, but man, you see the benefits. Like I think Jose looks at who participated in that Hispanic Playwrights Project, and he talks about it, just like these amazing playwrights that came out of that. I'm seeing that with the young people that I'm working with right now. I mean, they're growing. I've created the group that I wish I had when I was their age. And now they're having readings all over the country. And it's just knowing that someone is like creating that space. So I think it's a few things. I think, if young people want to do this, like there should be no one stopping you. Like right now, the resources out there, the technology, like sky's the limit, but it's also knowing the power of a mentor. I mean, just being in the space with Alvaro has been such an incredible mentor to me. I have questions, I can just like text him, and he said that to me. He's like, anytime you have any questions, like, text me, email me, call me. Like he's always available to help me out. And I think that is what is needed. It's both mentorship, but it's also kids wanting to be motivated to try this out and don't take no for an answer, and like if you're getting no's, like do your own thing.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I mean, I think what I've learned is that that I need to do more than just impart advice, but like, how is it that I can be able to do? How is it I can do like what Mabelle does in terms of like? I mean, I think one of the best ways to show what theater can do, or like in terms of how the younger voices can be able to help shape it, is being able to connect with the community, in terms of either doing classes within the community, and being able to then be able to impart like this is that this is you can use this as your way of storytelling. I mean, our as our people, we come from a long line of storytellers, and this is just another form of that. And so what I hope to do is continue to just open that up and try and, not not stand in the way too much, but just more be a way to like kind of say like, this is, use this as an outlet, and it might not play with the rules that you've seen or what you think theater is. And that's okay. Like, you change it, I think that's the great thing about theater, is that it continues to evolve, and it definitely evolves the more that we connect with younger voices, because I mean, younger people, they have different ways of storytelling, and so I think as long as theater continues to embrace that and accept that, like, I mean, it'll continue to change and continue to also connect with younger audiences, than specifically continuing to rely on older audiences who sometimes might only want one certain thing.
Mm-hmm. And Mabelle, what do you think?
Well,
did he cover it?
I think he covered it, but I also want to point out something, because so in addition to being a playwright and teaching artist, I'm a PhD student, and I'm actually working on a research project where I'm focusing on Latinx playwrights and playwriting. And I want to say that one of the things that I've noticed as I interview people, and also in my own career, is that we Latinos have a tradition of a collectivist culture, and I think that speaks to how Jose Cruz Gonzalez is, how Alvaro is, in that it's all about opening the doors for the people that are behind us, right? They're the ladder, the escalera, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that is in theater, which can be very cutthroat, which can be very neoliberalist, looking out for oneself, right? Because it's like, oh, it's that scarcity mentality. There's only so few opportunities, right, and I can't share with anyone. Like, it's been my experience. All of my mentors have strangely been Latino men, really, actually.
Yeah.
But they've all been super generous and super willing to share these opportunities. I mean, I think like within this past year, Jose has sent me like 3 or 4 different opportunities that have all manifested in commissions or work, or and I just think like that's what we need, that spirit of generosity. But that's not something that is unique to these guys. I mean, that is something that we do as Latinos.
Yeah.
So
I only got a couple more questions, because I know we're gonna try to keep it somewhat brief, but I'm curious what is on the horizon for you folks, and what you're looking to do this year to spread the word, and I know that Mabelle, you're doing amazing work on the podcast, but in terms of the teaching stuff and the creative work, what's on the horizon for you?
So I'm working on this horror TYA play.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
That I may have already said, oh yeah, can we schedule a reading on this month, because I have the script. I don't really have the script yet. And it's done. But it's one of those things where a terrible writer habit is working towards the deadline. So I'll procrastinate until I have a deadline. It's like, oh no, I have to do this now. So I have that. And I also, and I think like I'm gonna pick it on Alvaro for a second, because so I'm part of the BIPOC superhero project.
Nice.
With Alvaro and Jose Casas, who is spearheading this whole operation. And I need to start working on that, because I think, Alvaro, ya me ganaste. I think you're already making like tremendous progress, and now I feel left behind, because I have to start working on my play for that.
And I'm really glad Mabelle is part of that. And I mean, as she said, I am also a part of it. And I've started working on mine. And actually, I've got a few things. So I'm working on the play for the BIPOC superhero play, as well as I'm writing a new adaptation for Pam Munoz Ryan's Esperanza Rising.
Mm.
Um, and so I'm writing it that specifically for First Stage in Milwaukee. And that one is trying to basically create one that is a little more portable, but also incorporates music with the same composer I used for On the Wings of a Mariposa.
Mm.
And I'm also in the beginnings of working with Seattle Children's Theater to reimagine Luchadora, to make it more of a smaller cast.
Oh.
Yeah. So kind of doing with that, and then also um, I think in the and one of the goals also, as also while I'm working on this, is continuing to try and figure out like what's like the next step for Mabelle and I, like in terms of like we've already started talking about certain play ideas and stuff like that, but I mean that's also part of it. Like what short plays can we write? How many more can we write? But then also what are the longer plays that we can take on, that we can collaborate, and just I mean this is only the beginning. From that play you read, like it's only the beginning. Like I really do believe that we're going to do that. And honestly, I think well, Mabel writes faster than I do. And so I think we'll actually put out more plays than usually I do when I'm working on my own. So you might see a lot more work coming out that way.
That's awesome. That's great. So I got another selfish question real quick for the two of you. You've worked with your kids before. I'm very curious of that kind of relationship and how that benefits the work and what that experience was like. I know Mabel, you wrote a play with your son, and Alvaro, you also wrote a story with your son. Is that right?
It was also a play. It was for the same project.
Oh, awesome. Can you guys tell me about that? Mabel or Alvaro?
Yeah, so I will say that was one of the great joys of my life. Although I feel like I'm saying that a lot lately, but I really do feel that my kids are very much a part of my playwriting process. They're my first readers. So now that I'm focusing primarily on multi-generational stories, they're always we always do the Zoom reading. I incorporate them and my niece. So it's very much a family affair. So they're used to giving feedback. I also, because as I mentioned, I'm a teaching artist in prison. So sometimes, we don't have computers in my class or access to type scripts. So sometimes my kids will type scripts for me. So they're used to very much they know how to type scripts. They know how to give respectful Liz Lerman feedback. They're very much a part of this journey. So the way that the ask for that project, I have a story, came up is that I was in the meeting with Jenny Millinger from Child's Play, and my son like happened to walk into the room, and it's like she asked, "Is that your kid?" And he was asking for crayons because this was back during Zoom homeschooling days. And she said, would you like to write a play with him about about like COVID or like this time period, this very volatile time period that what kids are going through at this time. And my kid was down for it. I was down for it. It was a wonderful experience. I think that book is really cool. I don't know if you've seen it, if you're familiar with it, but the work in that book is quite the time capsule of what kids were going through. I mean, from all kinds of things, dealing with COVID, dealing with the George Floyd situations, with Asian hate. I mean, gosh, it covered the breadth of what's really on kids' minds.
Wow.
And for me, it was really special because it was very reflective of our experience as a family going through the pandemic. We're in California, so our kids stayed at home longer than most other states. Like there were, 1.5 years of homeschooling. for my son. And so, but it was a really, really great experience. My kid is a playwright now, because of that project. Like
Wow, that's awesome.
write plays on his own without me asking him. I tell him to go do the laundry. 45 minutes later, I get, so and so wants to share a Google Doc with you, and it's a play about one sock having a crush on another sock.
That's incredible.
So, yeah. So it's been, yeah. So yeah, I did not grow up with theater. It was not a part of my world, but that's not the case for my boys.
Wow, that is beautiful. And the fact that you've got them to also type up your scripts, I wish I could get my boy to do that.
Mom.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of approached the same way. But I think it was it was Dramatic Publishing who put out this anthology called I Have a Story. And so I was approached the same way, but they said they wanted to, where it was they wanted to connect with young people, but they also wanted professional playwrights. And when I was asked, I said specifically, I was like, I know you're going to connect with a young person, but I was like, I have a son, and I was like, and he's obviously going through this too, and I would love to, if it's possible, I would love to work with my son. And so they said, yeah, well, yeah, that would be great.
Wow.
And so it was and for me, I kind of approached it like I would just kind of talk to him. I would talk to him about various things that happened at school, the various memorable things, and I would just I would actually record them on my phone, just so I could really get his voice in terms of the story, and continue to just find these whatever stories we talked about. And one of the things he would always obviously love coming home. He'd always talk about the being able to play kickball again, because there was a point where they were allowing them to go to school just for a little bit. But it was more of finally he was able to kind of re-engage with some friends who they can only engage, through the screen. And so I felt like that was something that I wanted to kind of explore. So it was really cool. And I mean, I kind of wrote the draft and I gave it to him and I was like, okay, like tell me what works for you. And he gave me his feedback and then kind of we're there. So it was really cool. Like, I mean, I dream of figuring out ways to kind of continue to collaborate with my son, but I'm also like, he's gotten into he plays electric guitar. And so he's kind of starting to write his own songs, which is cool. And I'm like, okay, well,
that's amazing.
He's totally telling stories in a different way. He's not going to be a playwright, which, that's totally fine with me. But I'm really glad that he's kind of also has this outlet to tell his own stories, and maybe it is through music. And so, but I'm hoping, maybe one day we'll collaborate, maybe even write a, sort of musical or something. I don't know, but but it totally offered him experience. I mean, and it was awesome. Like what I also loved about it is to be able to kind of read various other people's works. And that was another reason how I also learned about Mabelle's work. I'm like, oh, she's in this book. Let me see what she's writing here. So it's a great collection in terms of the various different stories and the voices from the young people in terms of what they were experiencing at the time.
No, that's incredible. And lastly, I just want to ask you what you think the outlook is moving on from COVID, moving on from these difficult years that we've had. What do we have to look forward to in the theater?
I think what we have to look forward to in the theater, I don't know, again, because I stay in my community and it's just, we're unstoppable right now. And we need
so awesome.
We need to keep charging ahead and writing our stories, performing our stories, and planting our feet in the sand that theater is for us. Theater's for all of us.
Yes, 1,000,000% with that. I would say am I interrupting? If you have more to say, Mabelle, I don't want to interrupt.
That was my mic drop moment.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
The video's off.
Here's the way I think theater is. Theater is continuing to go back to its roots, where I mean, we're starting to see more and more theaters disappear still in terms of, and part of that is in terms of budgetary and various other things. And so I think theater is going to thrive in how it used to, in terms of where it is smaller, but still effective, in terms of maybe even more portable. Um, and so we'll still have, obviously the big regional theaters, but in terms of I think some of the smaller theaters are figuring out like ways to be able to kind of, how can we really focus on the storytelling aspect, and maybe not as much in terms of like spectacle. I mean, there's nothing wrong in terms of, having scenic design, costume design, and all these other things, when it's possible, but we can still make theater without it. I mean, my inspiration comes from Teatro Campesino, right? Like in terms of what Luis Valdez was able to do with people who weren't even trained in theater, to be able to kind of tell stories and tell important stories, and use theater to be able to connect with the community. Like I think we're going to continue to start seeing that. We're going to start seeing it in smaller, more, not in traditional theaters, and seeing it in ways that we can still see. And what I'm hoping is that we have more theater that actually uh, that continues to reflect the communities that they come out of. So not really focusing on like the big national like playwrights, and like nothing wrong with that. But I think it's in order for theater to continue to thrive and grow, like I think we will also see these smaller pockets of theaters doing exactly what Mabelle and her theater company is doing, is to really finding, celebrating the stories from that community. And the more that we do that, it's going to impact more communities, and what's great is that, sometimes some of the work that's going to come out of that will be published, and then other people can have access to it and be more inspired by it. So I mean, there's so much really cool things that I feel like theater is really kind of starting to, I feel, is just going to kind of regenerate itself and rethink itself, but also get back to the roots of storytelling. Mic drop.
Yeah, those are two beautiful mic drops, two beautiful notes to end on. So I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to do this, for putting up with some of the technical difficulties. But Alvaro, it was a pleasure to see you again and talk to you again. Mabelle, it was such a pleasure to meet you and get to know a little bit about you during this short time. But thank you for the work that you're both doing as a podcaster, as playwrights and educators. You're doing so much to lift people up and to lead the way in so many ways. So it's been a total pleasure, and I hope that we can do this again. Get more people in the mix next time too.
Oh, Jaime, I have to. I mean, we would be remiss if not saying like what you're doing is also important. The fact that you are doing, that you did something like this. I mean, we have, we cannot discount the fact that Mabelle, even both podcasters, like you're making this, you're making this accessible, in terms of who the work that we do, the work that we all do, and that's important too. And so I'm grateful. Like when I got to connect with you, and I saw that you were, putting out a call for guests, and being your fourth guest, I didn't even know that. Like I was like, I was like, man, if I had more time, this is what I would love to do. But I'm glad this guy's doing it. So I don't know who this guy is, but I'm gonna definitely reach out, and so, and then the same thing with Mabelle. Like, I mean, I when she was like, yeah, we've got this podcast. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, I would love to do it. Like, what you are doing isn't just, I mean, connecting in so many levels and making this stuff accessible, which is so awesome. And like, that's inspiring to me. And so I'm always grateful to be just to be a part of any of something like this. And we'll always be grateful. And so I thank you. And then obviously I'm always grateful for Mabelle being saying yes to collaborating. We got many things that we continue to dream. So we've got they're coming. We're figuring it all out.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Jaime, thank you so much for this. And again, congratulations on your 100th episode.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is no small. And so, yeah. And I feel like this is weird because normally I'm the one asking questions and we didn't ask you about your work, which if you want to like talk a little bit about that, I don't know, for like a minute or so. I know we're trying to wrap up, but I was just like, this feels very counter to what I'm used.
it felt very like the plan just kind of went out the window today, but I just wanted to say that it's been really inspiring. But I write and record, and really mostly I'm a playwright who gets distracted. If you really want to know the core of who I am, I love and hate playwriting, and I stopped doing it for a long time, a few years. And it feels like now I'm kind of getting a little bit more comfortable with where I'm at, as a parent, as a Mexican in Wyoming, as a husband and everything. And it feels like life is getting me back to playwriting. And so I'm just really blessed that I get to talk to you folks who are just doing such amazing things, that it makes me feel like this is the right way to move forward, to keep making art in the theater. So that's where I'm coming from mostly.
I love it. And I feel like the existential crisis is a daily occurrence for playwrights.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But hopefully, folks, we'll get to catch up a little bit more down the road, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we just scratched the surface, but man, you folks are kicking ass. So thank you for taking the time to join me, and I really hope that we get to talk again soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jaime.
Take care, and I'll be in touch over email, okay?
All right. Talk to you then.
Have a good Saturday. Bye.
Bye.